Well, good morning. I wanted to show you my stand-up paddleboard I made out of 700 used plastic water bottles. And I'm going to show you how I made this through a series of photographs here in a little bit. But I wanted to tell you kind of how this came to be. And a number of years ago I decided that I'd like to buy a stand-up paddleboard, but I wasn't willing to spend the $1,000 it would have taken to get the kind I wanted. And this is the kind I wanted. This is a 14-foot length expedition board with gear tie downs and lots of room, narrow, but I wasn't going to go spend $1,000 bucks. So I said, let me look online and find a way to do this. And the way to do this was kind of through traditional surfboard construction methods: extruded foam and maybe a stringer with fiberglass. It was basically just surfboard construction, building a stand-up paddleboard. Well, that was still going to be kind of costly, and I said, I'll wait. And I waited. I waited a couple years until last fall, when I started looking in earnest for how can I do this myself. And I ran into a guy online who had done his own. It was more of a kayak out of 2-liter bottles, out of recycled used 2-liter bottles. And Ken Campbell lives up in the Pacific Northwest, and he made his and really did some distance paddling with it, and I thought, that's what I'll do. So I went down to Birmingham, visited the recycling center at UAB, and I went down to the Alabama Environmental Council, and they have a large recycling center, and got myself a whole bunch of bottles, way more bottles than I thought I was going to need. I think I started off with 300, and this is now close to 700. Well, using Ken's methods, I took basically Ace Hardware brand liquid nails, and I started gluing these things together. And let me show you kind of what it looks like, because this is something that you could do just as easily if you have enough time and motivation to do it. So, starting on the bottom, I just started doing row after row after row. This is three layers thick, and there's not much to it other than 700 bottles. Now that includes the collars that hold the full pieces together. I did glue the caps on after they were filled. Flowfold, which is a company that makes wallets and bags and stuff out of used sailcloth and things, gave me what I needed to cover the bow of this board. And I even ended up making my own paddle out of a 1.5 inch diameter closet rod that I got from Home Depot. I just did some basic construction on it, cut a 10-degree angle, and just made myself a paddle. This actually came out really well. It is not the prettiest fiberglass work you will ever see, but it works really, really well, and I'm very pleased with it. So let me show you through these next series of videos kind of how this came to be. The design is not my own. I did find this shape on AccuShaper, and I'll put a link to it so you can see exactly where I went to find this design. But I hope you are inspired to maybe make your own stand-up bottle board, your own stand-up paddle board, or some other creative project that you can do that will exercise your skills in building and making. Help environmentally not contribute to more stuff in the landfill, and you just don't know what you end up doing. Now, is this the prettiest board? No. If I was going to make it again, I would certainly do a few minor things differently, but it is a stand-up bottle board. I was able to complete it. It took me about 6 months, and I'm incredibly satisfied with it, and I'd like to help you make your own if you'd like to as well.
So to begin with, I needed a design, and I got looking around the internet and found quite a few different interesting shapes and sizes, and I ended up settling on the one you see here, which is actually a surfboard design, but could also very easily serve as a stand-up paddleboard. So then I ended up going down to Birmingham to the University of Alabama Recycling Center and got some plastic bottles. And the guy there was really cool, and he referred me to the Alabama Environmental Council, and they actually had quite a bit more. So I did 2 or 3 trips down there over the course of 6 months, getting the bottles. I washed them and just made sure they were clean. Then I, using just my general interest in boat building, I took the plans and I kind of lofted them out on to a large piece of paper. I had a roll of brown paper, and I just laid out stations. I figured out, how to make sure the shape translated from small paper to the big full-size design. Went down to the Ace Hardware lumberyard and got some okume, and laid the paper out on it, traced it, cut it out, and just got myself a general shape out on the plywood. I knew I was going to need to reinforce it, so I got some stringers that was basically 1 inch by a little over a half an inch, and I had to notch them so they could easily be bent around the corners. I tacked them on with some finishing nails and had the general shape ready to go. I put one across the middle to join the 2 pieces. I used 4 foot by 8 foot pieces of plywood, and then needed to make sure that it was joined pretty securely in the middle. Knowing that the plastic bottles weren't going to really provide a lot of rigidity, I did have a stringer centrally down the middle, and that was my basic top that really gave me the support I needed. I also added 2 more stringers down the sides just to provide that extra amount of rigidity. Following that, I covered it with some Thompson's water seal. Really made sure that it was pretty thoroughly covered and was going to repel water and wasn't going to get in there and start to rot. Following the completion of the top of the board, I got some paracord and braided up these handles. I got one on the very nose of the board and a couple on the tail sides. Put some D-rings down there and have some handles just to help carry it and pull it and drag it. On the deck of the board, I also added this shelf covering, the stuff that you put on a shelf to keep things from sliding around. Just cut out a general shape that I liked and used some spray adhesive, sprayed that down so that's a nice, comfortable, slip-resistant place for me to stand while I'm out paddling around. But on the tail of the board, I don't know, more of an aesthetic design. I just angled it down. In my mind, I had thought, well, if I fall off, I have to get back on. It's just going to be easier to kind of climb back on. But I realized I wasn't going to climb on the back of the thing. But it just comes out looking a little bit better, I think, with it just kind of wedged off on the back. After that, the main part of construction started, and is what took me most of the time. I took these bottles and I cut the tops and bottoms off of them to kind of create a collar. I took the caps and glued them on the whole bottles, and then joined the 2 together like this. The whole thing started coming together pretty good, but I realized that the front of it is going to need to have a little bit different shape. So I looked at using some coroplast. I looked at some different ideas on what I could do to get the nose of it to kind of move through the water more smoothly. And I was actually able to get some of this red material from a company called Flowfold, and Flowfold makes wallets and bags and different things out of racing sailcloth, and they were generous enough to provide this for me, so it actually works really well. And I just put some roofing nails on there and tacked it to the side of my stringer around the side, and it works really, really well. So I just kept putting more and more bottles down, side by side and front to back, and I did 3 layers actually, just to make sure that it was substantial enough to float me. And doing some rough math, I can float like close to 400 pounds before it actually completely submerges. So I'm about 190. I've got plenty of space for me and any gear I want to take, and plenty more left over. I also decided to make my own paddle, and I found a great design online. A guy had actually gone out and done the work himself and provided a template for the blade, and I went to Lowe's and got a closet rod, and ended up fabricating that myself. That wasn't too difficult. I actually had to do a little bit of figuring on how to cut a 10-degree angle without a table saw, and managed to put that together. The fiberglass was a new venture for me. I'd never done fiberglass before, but ended up coming together pretty well, and overall I'm very pleased with it. Any of this is available online for you to find in the same way that I did, but if you have specific questions on how you can do certain things that I did specifically, let me know. Send me an email at info@needfree, and I'd be more than happy to kind of walk you through some of the specifics that I did, and maybe you can improve on it and make your design better. I'm actually going to widen the board a little bit, not so much on the deck of the board, but underneath. It tapers down. The 3 layers that kind of taper in. It's a long, very narrow board, so it's a little more tippy than I would like. So I'm going to widen the bottommost course by 1 row widthwise. I think that should add a little more stability with it. But I had a really great time doing this, and I hope this has inspired you to do something of your own similarly. And I look forward to seeing some of your projects, some of the things that you've done. So along with this build documentation, I'm going to be doing quite a few more videos chronicling my runs, my paddles, my DIY projects, just a bunch of stuff that I've got going on. So it would be great if you would like this video and subscribe to keep up with all the new stuff coming down the road. And I really enjoyed doing this. I hope it challenges and inspires you to do something of your own. And until I talk to you again, I hope you have a great day.